Hi everyone, this is Yolanda. This tutorial is about making roses with crusting buttercream. I've already made a small cake. I will frost it with a lemon buttercream frosting. For that you will need 1 cup of butter, 4 cups confectioner sugar, 3 tablespoons of milk, 2 to 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla. First, we will cream the butter and sugar, alternating with a little bit of milk. Both sugar and milk should be added little by little. The mixing of the ingredients should take you a few minutes because you don't want to mix all the ingredients at once. You need to take your time doing this. Also, if you have a stand mixer to mix the ingredients, that will be great. The reason I'm using this hand mixer is because my big mixer, the motor just burned out, and the smaller mixer is going the same route. So use a stand mixer if you can. If not, then a hand mixer will do the job. So I'm done mixing. This buttercream is smooth and creamy and soft, and that's because I took my time to mix it. Now I'm going to fill my cake with the icing and spread it out as much as I can. I'm using a large round tip to distribute the icing over the cake. That's tip 1A. You may also use a square tip, or you can use a spatula. Use whatever you have at hand and whatever works for you. I'm also icing the edges between the layers just to make sure that the frosting is well spread out. After this, I'm going to give the cake a crumb coat before I start decorating it. So as you can see, I've already crumb coated my cake. I gave the top a second coat, but left the sides just with a crumb coat since I'll be putting a lot more icing on the sides. I started using tip number 48, but then I changed it to number 47 because the weaving looked too big with the 48. I'm going to finish doing the basket weave all around the side, then I will come back to you. So here we are with all these beautiful roses. First, let me start by saying that the recipe for this crusting buttercream is located in Yolanda's Cakes under the video titled How to Make Crusting Buttercream. That's where you will find that recipe. In that video, I show you how to prepare that crusting buttercream to make these beautiful roses and leaves. The beauty of this buttercream is that the roses hold their petals a little longer than if we make them with regular buttercream, especially under hot conditions. I want you to pay close attention on how you make the center of your rose, the center or the cone. The shorter you make that cone, the flatter your rose will look. It will look very flat, but when you give your center a nice height, when the rose is made, it'll look rigid and tall. That's the difference between some of the roses that I'm showing here. Some are flat and others are upright. All of these containers contain the crusting buttercream that I made to make these beautiful flowers or roses. I like to keep them in a tight jar so it doesn't get dry. I'm going to stir them a little since I'm going to be using it. You may store these buttercream in the fridge for a couple of days and then bring it out to room temperature before using it. For these roses, I'll be using tips 104, 61, and 12. If you are a new cake decorator, you may use a round tip to make the center of the rose. I'll demonstrate it to you. If you are an expert, then you don't need that. You will pipe right on the bare nail and scoop up the rose with a rose lifter. I recommend using a 1-inch square piece of either parchment paper or wax paper to put on the nail. You will secure the paper to the nail with a dab of icing. I'm filling my pastry bag with my icing. I'm mixing white and red to see how the rose will look. I'm also going to be using the leaf tip number 352 for leaves with green buttercream. But first, we need to cut the square pieces of paper for the flower nail. I pipe a dab of icing on the nail to fasten a piece of paper. Take tip number 12 and pipe a cone. As you pipe upward, make a little pressure on the bag down so that you make kind of a cone. And remember, do not make it too short so your roses don't look flat. Now let's change the tip. That's why I mentioned that working with 2 bags and the tips attached to each bag saves time. Now you are going to rope the cone with tip 104, starting from the bottom up and around until the tip of the cone is roped. That will be your first petal. Then, with the same motion from the bottom up and down, we are going to make a row of 3 petals overlapping each other. Once we have that, now we are going to make 5. Starting between 2 petals. We are going to start between those 2 petals. That's where we are going to start the row of 5 petals. See? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now we are going to make 7 petals. Again, between 2 petals, we start 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And if you notice, look how your rose is standing up. It's not flat. You see how it has height. And now I'm just making more petals at the bottom. And that's it. That's all you need to do. And we will do it again just so you see how it is made one more time. See, 1 2 3, then 5, then 7. I should mention that whenever you use the tip 104 to make roses, the wider side of the tip goes down, thin side of the tip up, and the wider side of the tip goes down. I purposely made this cone very short so you could see how flat this rose is going to look. I like to show you something here. The first 3 roses have jagged edges. The last one, the pink rose, it's well defined and its petals are very nice and smooth. That's because the tip has to be widened. Sometimes this happens with tip 104. You need to, with a pair of scissors or something sharp, you need to very carefully open and widen the narrow side of the tip. Sometimes you can use a flower nail as well. Now when we pipe a rose again, the edges are no longer going to be jagged, but they are going to be nice and smooth. Let's try that. Basically, it's the same motion from bottom up and then to the bottom again. 3 petals, 5 and 7. And remember to make your cone kind of tall so your rose does not look flat. We always clean our tip with a rag or paper towel, because if you don't, you are going to drag all the icing on the petals of the rose. So that's why you see me cleaning the tip all the time. And if you notice, see how smooth those petals look. Very smooth, very nice. So now let's add some leaves to this rose, and we are going to be adding leaves to the rest of the roses as well. Look how nice. I'll pipe the next rose directly on the nail. I'm using tip number 61. Now with this tip, this flower is going to look a little more open than the flowers that I piped with tip 104. And if you notice, the petals are very smooth as well. That's because I widen the tip. The petals of this flower is going to look like this, tilting towards you. It's not going to be very upright, but it's going to be kind of tilted towards you a little. That's the difference between the petals of the 124 and the number 61. If you notice, see how it's different a little bit, not much, but you could tell the difference. You can also practice your leaves using the tip number 352. You can pipe different types of leaves with this tip. This is the one that we're using for our roses. Okay, so this is the cake here. I've already finished all the basket weave. Also on top, I did some reverse shells. Now I'm going to place all the flowers kind of on the edge, just piping some buttercream, and I'm just going to place them around, and then in the middle of the cake I am going to pipe some tulips with a Russian tip. I like to pipe my tulips sometimes one on top of the other because sometimes tulips are very short, and when you have roses like this in front of the tulips, then the tulips need to be higher up. So you're going to see me from time to time piping one tulip on top of another. So let's watch. Also, I piped some flowers with a star tip. I believe was the 21. No, I don't remember right now, but I piped some flowers just to fill in gaps. And then with tip number 3, I piped some yellow dots just to make it look like small flowers filling in the gaps. So as you can see, I already finished placing all the tulips and all the roses on the cake, even at the bottom. Now what I have here, I have some hearts in lattice work. I printed this pattern from the internet, and then using royal icing, I traced over it and I let it dry. I just wanted to place one on the cake in that space there in the back. When you do this, you need to use royal icing just like I'm doing there. I use royal icing to place the heart. Then I also went around the heart to see if I messed up anything, any of the tulips, which I did, and I piped new ones. And that's it. You can make this beautiful cake for your family on Valentine's Day that is coming up, and you can pipe all these beautiful flowers with the Crusting Buttercream. Remember that you should either freeze or refrigerate your roses before you place them on the cake. And here is the pattern that I used. I printed it out from the internet, and then I went over it. I put a wax paper on the paper that I printed, and then I just with royal icing I did that. So this is all for today. Thank you. God bless you. And be at peace with everyone as much as you can. Have a nice day. God bless. We see you in another tutorial in Yolanda's Cakes. Bye-bye.